And you can say no one on the corner got swagger like us. Your season is here. God is just setting the stage for your grand entrance. And if you feel that, I just have one question for you in here today. When is it here? I wish somebody would say already. So David is now walking in his season and getting unstuck. But in the midst of getting unstuck, David defies logic. Now the logic David defied was both theological, the logic of God, as well as homological, which is self-logic. Let's look at the theological first. David was extremely excited about fulfilling his purpose. But he understood that no purpose was complete without the presence of God. So David goes to the house of Abinadab, the father of Uzzah, in Kiryat Yearim, where the ark of God had been resting for the past 20 years. The ark of God, also known as the Ark of the Covenant, was a rectangular box that had on its top two cherubim or angels with their wings outstretched and bowing and facing one another. This is known as the mercy seat. Somebody say the mercy seat. The reason they were bowing towards one another on top of the box was because between their outstretched wings was where the presence of God dwelt in the figure of a blue flame. Whenever this flame rested on the mercy seat, the people of Israel were to stop and set up camp. Watch this. Whenever the flame of God's presence lifted, the people would take up their camps and move until God rested again. And there are some of you in here today that God's presence has rested on you, but you keep moving and God is saying, get your behind somewhere and sit down. While at the same time there are some that God's presence has lifted and gone on to another place. And the reason you can't hear God and commune with God the way you used to is because you are still trying to communicate with God based on where he used to be. Look at your neighbor and say, now you made me have to go 80s on you. Now tell your neighbor, you better get yourself up and bust a move. Now it was recorded by Moses in Exodus 25 and Numbers 4 that this ark was to be carried by the sons of Kohath, the Levites. And the instructions were that there are wooden poles that are to be placed through two metal rings that were situated on both sides. There were 4 in all. 2 metal rings that were situated on both sides of the ark. And the reason you had to carry it on the poles was because this was the promise of God's presence. And if anyone touched it according to the instructions that God gave, they would die. Now David, being an Israelite, understood logically how he was supposed to carry the ark. But his excitement and his haste overrode his logic, and he decided to carry it on a new wagon instead. And as he is making his way back to the city of David, the ark began to wobble because one of the oxen pulling the wagon stumbled, and Uzzah, the son of Abinadab, reached out to keep the ark stable. But as he touched the ark, God killed him, as he declared in his instruction to Moses for transporting the ark of God. Now, as they were transporting the ark, before Uzzah died, David and all of Israel were praising God on the harp and the psaltery and all that. But after Uzzah died, the Bible states that David's emotions went from excitement to anger to fear. This is when we get to the homological defiance. When David gets stuck in his emotional quandary, his body searches for that which is familiar in order to be stimulated and comforted. So he takes the ark of God and places it in the house of Obed-Edom. Stay with me, I'm going somewhere. And then he goes into isolation. This modus operandi has become David's coping mechanism ever since he was a youth. He dealt with the rejection of his father and brothers by isolating himself in the pasture pastures with the sheep away from human contact. He dealt with the jealousy of Saul by isolating himself in caves. Yes, David received his stimulation through isolation. But some people receive their stimulation in the form of fornication, masturbation, incarceration, manipulation, smoke inhalation, and alcoholic libation. But be aware that these stimulations can lead to degradation, devastation, disorganization, and desolation. In fact, we will find in 2 Samuel chapter 11 that it was David's isolation that led to his affair with Bathsheba and ruined the success of his kingdom. But if we can overcome our need for stimulation, we can reach our ultimate destination. See, it's important that we understand that the Ark of the Covenant was not just a religious relic. It's important to understand that. The ark was attached to David's lifelong goals and dreams. It had everything to do with what he desired in life. It is in the 27th number of the Davidic Psalms where we find that David is writing, one thing have I desired of the Lord, and it's that thing that I'm going to pursue after. What is that, David, that you're pursuing after? He replies, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, to behold the beauty of the Lord and to inquire in his temple. This was David's dream. It was his dream, y'all. It was his dream. And David was pursuing his dream with zeal and passion. But on his way to attaining his dream, he had made some mistakes that caused his dream to be deferred. During the Harlem Renaissance, a young author by the name of Langston Hughes asked the question, what happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun or fester like a sore and run? Does it stink like rotten meat or crust and sugar over like a syrup is sweet? Maybe it just sags like a heavy load, or does it just explode? Mr. Hughes, thank you for asking that question. You asked such a good question. But I've grown to learn that a dream deferred is not a dream denied. I have come to the realization that it's not about how easy the dream is to attain, but it's about how bad you want it. That's why in the early 90s, another young brother by the name of Kevin Jones wrote, the sky is the limit. You can have it and everything that resides in it, but you gotta want it. Your mind is like a sponge. You can absorb all the knowledge that you want, but it lies on your shoulders whether you do or don't. Yet, you gotta want it. Your dreams may stretch far and wide, countless, but yet attainable. And only you can bring them within reach, but it still remains that you gotta want it. Well, do you want it or not? It's your decision. But don't go half-stepping trying to achieve that vision. If you really want it, there's no time to doubt. Because if you're going north, baby, why you gonna look south? Your hope should always be high and above. Many may encourage, but you got to love. In other words, you gotta want it. So I need to talk to somebody in here today who has laid down their dreams because of mistakes, letdowns, and delays. I came here to tell you that it's time to get a hold on your emotions so that you can get your blessing. It's time for you to get up out of your depression, overcome your fear, and let go of your anger so that you can go back and get your dream. The Bible states that God blessed Obed-Edom's house because the ark of God was there. And somebody needs to know that other folk are being blessed by your dream, but they are not anointed enough to mature the dream like you can mature it. They're not anointed enough to take that dream to its greatest good. They're not anointed enough to take that dream to the level that you can take it. That's why when you sit back and watch other people do what you were born to do, you will sit back and look at them, and without being critical in your mind, you can take that thing to a whole nother level. But you are too scared, too angry, too depressed, too mad, too hurt, and too apathetic to go and get it and work it like you know it ought to be worked. But I feel somebody in here being pushed to overcome their emotional conundrum in order to go back and get their dream and make it do what it do. Look at somebody say, make it do what it do, baby.